Classroom pets are surely a topic of discussion for any classroom. When deciding on a pet, a teacher surely wants to choose one that children can partake in learning through caring for their classroom pet. In any case, we're about to embark on quite an adventure. Why have only one classroom pet when you can have hundreds? Our Trout in the Classroom project will be a project to build our classroom community all year long. We will work together from beginning to the very end of the project. By the end of our project, we will have a wonderful project to share with family, friends, and peers. We will have embarked on quite an adventure that will take us through caring for our trout and learning about their life cycle. Before we can even receive our fish eggs, we have to find the perfect spot in our classroom. It is important to make sure the trout are kept in the perfect conditions in our classroom as to not stress them out. We want to optimize the chances of yielding the most trout survivals. In order to do this, we have to think about what makes a trout home the perfect home. Trout survive in the banks of a stream. Although we will not be providing a stream in our classroom, we will want to make our tank to replicate stream qualities as best as we can. Trout are a cold water species that require the water to be between 52 degrees and 54 degrees Fahrenheit. This will be achieved by our chiller. It is important to not have direct sunlight on our tank. Also important is to make sure the tank is off the floor and away from most of the movement of the students. We have found the perfect spot. When setting up the tank, we have to make sure the insulation is properly put in the tank. The chiller, air filter, and flow has to be working properly while the bubbler in the tank is in the right spot to emulate flow of a stream. Once we have all the tank pieces in place, we are ready to welcome our fish eggs. The email has come. Our fish will be arriving in just a few days. Our egg baskets are in place. Water tests are clear and students are excited. Our box has arrived from PA Fish and Game. Inside, we will see how many fish eggs have made it to Moton, PA. Time to gather around and count out our fish eggs. We carefully gather around the tank to see what awaits inside the box. Inside the bag, we see many little peach balls ready to be placed into our tank. We count one by one to see how many eggs have survived the trek and how many were able to not survive. It is very easy to see the difference between the dead and living eggs, making it easy for students to tell the difference. As I use the turkey baster to pull out the eggs, the students are keeping tally of our eggs. The students look for the eggs that are peachy in color, indicating life, or eggs that are white in color, meaning dead eggs. After some time and careful notes, we learn we have 238 eggs that have survived the traveling. Who ever thought we would have so many class pets? The next few weeks are important. The eggs will stay in the baskets as eggs for about 3 weeks. During these 3 weeks, we have to make sure the water levels and tests are within the appropriate range for survival of the trout. Every day the students take turns testing the pH, ammonia, nitrate, and nitrite. We have reached out to our local water testing treatment plant to ensure we are testing our water and reading our results appropriately. It is also important to be aware of any eggs that have become dead because that will change the levels of our water testing. We have to keep specific track of how many eggs are removed to report back to PA Fish and Game. A watchful eye has become our theme in our classroom. After 3 weeks of a close eye, the trout eggs have started to hatch. This, of course, happened while the students were home on Thanksgiving break. The trout were delivered as trout eggs and now have become alevin. The alevins still need to stay in our egg baskets. They are not at the point that we need to feed them quite yet because they still have their sacs. Their sacs are attached to their stomachs, which is still how they are feeding and getting nutrients that they need. Although we do not need to feed them, we still need to make sure our water is the appropriate qualities for survival of our trout. We are getting close to releasing them into the tank. Moving into the month of December, we're counting down the days, not until winter break, but until our trout can be released into the tank. The trout are not quite sure how to swim at this point, but are starting to get used to the water flow in their bodies. Once the trout start to swim to the surface of the water, it's time to let them swim. They are in the swim-up phase and getting to the point of being fry, meaning they do not have their sacs anymore and need to be fed. They are ready to start to explore our tank and learn how to swim and eat. Once they get to the fry stage, it becomes really exciting in our classroom. The students are even more interested in our classroom tank because at the fry stage, the brook trout take form into what the students are used to seeing fish as being. At this point, we start feeding them once to see how they take to the food. After feeding them once to see how they swim, we will know how often to feed them and to see how they're developing. After 3 days of feeding them once, we learn we can feed them up to about 2 or 3 times a day. At this point, they only receive food number 0 and a very small amount of food for each feed, about a fourth of a teaspoon at this point. Again, our water testing is still very important because we're introducing food and waste to the tank at this point. This can change the water drastically, very quickly, so the students must keep a watchful eye on the tank, yet again. The fry will get to be about 1 inch in length and will continue in the stage until about the end of January, beginning of February. Most of the brook trout at this point are able to stay alive and are continuing to grow. The fry will start to develop vertical lines called par marks, meaning they're ready to move into the fingerling stage. They will grow anywhere from 1 to 3 inches in the fingerling stage. The fingerling stage lasts from the middle of winter through early May, when we will be releasing the trout into their natural habitat. We have started planning out how a release will look for family, friends, and peers. We have planned our release for April, a little earlier than expected, but the fish are ready. Our whole day has been planned out and we are putting the final touches on our projects and making sure our fish are prepared as well. The word is out to our family, friends, and peers. All of our materials are ready and fish have been moved to the cooler and buckets. The day has arrived. We are at the Moton Park where the Wyomissing Creek runs through to release our brook trout into their natural habitat. Everyone is here that we invited, including our high school peers who took part in the same project in their classroom. We release them as fingerling trout into the stream where they will eventually take hold of their last stage as adult brook trout. Most brook trout in this area live for about 3 years. We have done our part in this trout project to help our ecosystem around us. The tough part happens now that all the hard, fun work is completed. The last 2 steps of our project are the cleaning of our tank and reporting our results. We have to make sure our tank is cleaned properly so the tank is ready to go for the students in the years to come. Part of our project is reporting to the PA Fish and Game of our class results on our Trout in the Classroom project. We were able to learn through our community project about the importance of brook trout to our ecosystems and how they form ready for their natural habitat.